there's a common recipe for good storytelling that's been used for millennia across art forms and across different cultures. Many of our favorite stories, move slides. Many of our favorite stories of Frodo, Harry, Dorothy, and Alice all have the same pattern, and it's been called the hero's journey. The Star Wars saga is a perfect example. Luke has an ordinary life on Tatooine until Leia has a call to him for help. R2-D2 delivers this call for help, and he refuses it until motivated by the loss of his family. Then, with the help of Obi-Wan as his mentor, he crosses the threshold to follow his call, rebelling against the Empire. Then there are these exciting events, the exotic cantina scene, lessons on using the Force, and getting stuck in the trash compactor, events that prepare him for the final challenge, the climax, destroying the Death Star. Only after learning how to use the Force, Luke returns home as a celebrated hero. And ever since Joseph Campbell popularized this narrative, psychologists and philosophers have suggested using it in your own lives to face challenges. For example, things were just fine with me until I was asked to give a TED Talk. I promptly freaked out, asked for help from friends, and then struggled and procrastinated to write this. And you all are here for the main event, and afterwards I'll be seen basking in the relief of surviving your truly terrifying gazes. And this model is great for problems that you can see and conquer and throw a nice little party afterwards. But most challenges aren't this finite, especially the ones that are worthwhile. The social and physical diseases of the world, violence, ignorance, corruption, they're not just one person's heroic struggle. And internalizing the model that we see from heroes that we watch and read about can be dangerous to us and our goals when we face bigger problems. We aren't going to fight the dragon and then come home. We need to have a different story. First of all, most of us never get a giant flashing neon sign from the universe saying that you will be the person to solve ovarian cancer. There are very rarely talking white rabbits or burning bushes saying, hey, go fight hunger in rural America. And actually, as a child, I was angry that no one had invited me on a personal, wild, crazy adventure. And sometimes life shakes us up and gives us new motivation. But most of the time, our call isn't something external. The change happens when we start to listen. There are calls to action around us every day, all the time. Every news report about prison conditions, and every homeless person you walk by. Your adventure can start anytime. But of course, here comes our refusal. We say, I don't know how to make people less violent and more empathetic. I don't have enough money to fight addiction in my community, so I can't change the world. And these statements are all true. And for most people, this is where their epic stories end. Maybe there weren't enough miraculous signs or enough fearless leaders around them. Reasonable things like money and time get in the way. And the story is so short that it's rarely told, except for in passing. How I always wanted to create a video game that would teach conflict resolution, or I almost quit my job to work for a human rights agency. In these cases, I try to consider the best and worst possible outcomes of what happens if I do and what happens if I don't. You'll have to decide the odds. And then maybe, despite the fear and uncertainty, go for it anyway. And if you're lucky, Gandalf, Morpheus, or Dumbledore will guide you to your life's fulfillment. But if you're actually solving one of the world's hairy, messy, weird world problems, it's likely that no one can guide you. No one knows the full solution to a societal problem, which is inherently why it's still around. And this can be terrifying. No one knows the full solution. But listen to that again. No single person knows the full solution. So you can't wait for the perfect mentor. You'll need to form your own council. You'll need a trusted group of advisors and resources who can help you in every facet of your challenges. Sometimes the right mentor might even be a book or a podcast or a person you'll never even meet. And with the support of this team, you'll be ready to cross the threshold into the unknown. But it won't just be like the yellow brick road where you know where you've been and where you need to explore next. The paradox of our reality is that the more you learn, the more you realize just how little you know. You aren't just crossing one threshold. You're crossing thresholds every single day. And once again, this can be exhausting and overwhelming. But as you're making steps forward, you have to realize that you are becoming the expert in your adventure, in your challenge. You've made steps and gone somewhere new, even if you're just now realizing how many more steps there are. So my personal journey has gone like this. I understood that there was suffering caused by preventable waterborne illness. But I started listening when my uncle told me stories from his life in Cameroon. I started to understand exactly how complicated it was and went to see it for myself. That's me in Haiti. I, of course, wanted to help, but I didn't know how. I'm an engineer, after all. I can't start a company, don't know how to run a nonprofit. But over the next 3 years, some very convincing people listened to an idea that I had and ushered me into it. They became my business mentors, my speaking coaches, my exercise and meditation partners, my mentors in every aspect of life so that I can focus and do my best. And in fact, I'm sharing the stage today with one of my mentors, Ian Rosenberger. So thank you, Ian. And now, my co-founder and I created Rorus. It's a startup company making water filters that address one of the key roots of the drinking water crisis, poor hygiene education. But that's a whole nother TED Talk. And we're still exploring the unknown because no one can tell us exactly how to run Rorus. No one knows exactly how to make the world's simplest, safest water filters. For example, we won't even know meaningful data about our impact for a little while because the crisis we're facing is one that's embedded in and created by and multiplied by lack of information. Fighting the good fight isn't always glamorous. It isn't even always righteous. Sometimes it's mostly just fear of public failure and habit pushing me. My physical and my mental health have suffered, and my relationships have suffered. I've lost best friends over decisions that I've made for Rorus, and I can't even be sure that those decisions were the right ones. No one is entirely sure of how many times I have seriously considered quitting, because it's just that hard. It just seems so impossible. There's a Haitian proverb about this that says, "Beyond mountains, there are mountains." And I expected the exhaustion and the uncertainty, but I never expected the mountains I was facing to make me jaded against other people or disappointed in my own character. I never expected the mountains to be cemented in ignorance. The challenges just don't stop coming. I'm still stumbling along, and I will be stumbling along for probably my entire career. So my advice to you is to forget the rest of the hero's journey. Forget the way that success is portrayed in our culture just about every day of our entire lives. When you're fighting a cause that's so big that you feel like a drop in the bucket, drop any expectations of a triumphant and final return home. We'll all be lucky to get a good Wikipedia page, let alone the satisfaction of solving the likes of cancer, racism, or human trafficking. Instead, I'd like to suggest a different ending to our narrative. What I really think we should be seeking is to become the version of ourselves that's ready and willing for the long haul. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And even more accurately, carrying your cause is a marathon without mile markers or even a finish line. So don't be a martyr for your cause. Cherish your health and your sanity, because they would enable you to make more than just a single drop in the ocean. Don't focus on success. Focus on thriving as you go. For me, that meant learning how to meditate every day and prioritizing sleep, exercise, time with loved ones, and chances to travel. For you, that might mean yoga therapy, cooking, or time cuddling a pet. Caring for humanity is much more like caring for a young child than it is like going on a volunteer trip. You'll need to be the most resilient, healthiest version of yourself in order to put up the best fight. And you'll need to be that person every single day. So in case you haven't heard a real, fervent call to action in your life, and no one's invited you on a wild, reckless adventure, this is it. You can start listening right now for the ways that your skills meet what the world needs. So be the change, repair the world, save the Shire. Decide what white rabbit you care about, and decide if you're willing to chase it. And if you just thought, I don't have the skills, or I don't know what to do, you're right, you don't know, but that's not permanent. If you find the right resources, you can make a big difference. So please dream big, and please work hard. But most importantly, work to become the version of yourself that's ready to just keep swimming. Thank you.